Going live. There we are. We're going live. We're 12 minutes out. We are live. 12 minutes out. Appears to be working. Everything seems like it's here and ready. That's all good.
Squirrel!
I can hear it well.
Yeah. Except you probably can't hear this.
Yes, I can. I can hear it loud and clear today.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And things are working once again.
Yay.
It's 33 degrees in the greenhouse.
33 has been popping up everywhere for me. I bought something the other day and it was $33.33. It's like, wow, 33 is just everywhere.
Today's 33.
Mm-hmm.
33, 22. Next year it'll be 33. Or 23. No.
I was just going to say, it's not quite.
Well,
Next year won't be 10 years later.
We got 11 years to go tonight. 11, 10, 10, whatever. Yeah, next year will be 33, 23. All right. Let's see what we got. Everything else appears to be working. We have a show. A few things are done. All the notes. Everything looking good. We have a contest winner.
We do indeed.
And let's see what we've got. We have good audio on the show. We got everything else appears to be working. Sounds like it. We have a show. A few things are done. All the notes. Everything looking good. We have a contest winner.
We do indeed.
There we go. Okay, your voice is there too. All right, we're good.
It's a good day. The AI loves us today.
Well, it's being nice to me right now. Due to my hangover from yesterday.
It happens.
I drank way too much on Tuesday night.
Well, as long as you had fun, that's all that really matters.
Well, we did a show. It was entertaining, I think. One or two people listened to it.
Yeah, I remember that. There's a couple people who were there most of the show. That was pretty fun. Wish they had said hi, though.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. Maybe they just don't want to, have any public record of admitting to watching the show.
That could be it. I can understand that.
Yeah, well, it is interesting, this show here, pull them in.
So here's a question.
What's that?
What's the weather like out there?
Sunny, partially sunny.
Sunny?
Warm.
Awesome.
It's 9 degrees outside right now.
It's trying really hard to be sunny down here, but those evil clouds just keep getting in the way.
It's supposed to be partly cloudy and sunny all the way through till next Tuesday, Wednesday. I think next Tuesday, Wednesday. So we're supposed to have, next Tuesday, Wednesday is prediction for rain.
I theorize we'll probably just have rain the whole time anyway, because that's what happens here on the island. In our little wet coast.
Yeah, well, that's what we get. I need to get out in the greenhouse and do a bunch of things. I didn't get as much accomplished yesterday as I should have. I was out of sorts. But I did go look at some trees for the gardener here that she's got a friend down the street from her that where they've got a bunch of old fruit trees on the property that are ignored. And if we take over the care of the fruit trees, we get to collect half the fruit at the end of the season.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, there's a couple of pears, a peach tree, pears, peaches, apples, plums.
Berries?
Cherries. A cherry tree. The cherry tree is humongous. I mean, the cherry tree, just the base of the cherry tree is about 3 feet across at the base.
Wow.
Huge,
I love cherry trees.
Huge, massive cherry tree. It's probably got to be about 40 years old. It was never pruned. It was just allowed to grow.
And cherry wood is really good for things too.
Yeah, well.
My partner, he smokes tobacco pipes, and one of his favorite pipes is made out of cherry wood. Cherry wood seems to hold flavor and seems to be good for carving, and it seems pretty tough too.
It's a extremely hard wood.
Ah,
It's a very hard wood. Yeah, well, we're going to get some big chunks of cherry. The water spouts on the tree, some of the water spouts are a foot across.
water spouts?
If you look at a tree, you'll see branches that grow straight up.
Okay.
Okay, because when you're especially on fruit trees, you need the branches to go laterally out to the sides, but you'll see branches that'll go straight up, and fruit is rarely ever produced on those, and they're called water spouts.
What are they for?
Not sure. I'd have to do some research to find out why trees produce them, but
Maybe it's to grab extra sunlight.
yeah, could be. But it usually causes a blockage in sunlight for all the fruit-bearing areas, and it sucks away energy and nutrients that the fruit could be better be used in a fruit. So they're supposed to be pruned out, but they were never pruned on this tree, and some of the water spouts are a foot across. They're huge.
Wow.
They're like big giant poles.
So it's like a forest tree, gone totally wild.
Yeah, oh yeah, the whole tree. The lady that's there now has had the property for 5 years, but and she's not really done anything with them in 5 years, and they were in pretty crazy shape when she moved in there. So all in all,
That sounds like
pretty
it's going to
interesting.
be a lot of fun. Like, I know a lot of hard work, but it still seems like it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'll
Getting
definitely-
trees all pruned up, shaped, and happy again.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. Interesting to see what happens. You know, this year she got a little more fruit from the trees, but you know they can. She's good with continuing it for as long as she owns the property, and you know after a couple of years they'll produce very, very well.
Nice. I find it interesting that in order to have healthy fruit trees, generally you have to have a couple of that kind of tree, or like
Yeah.
what you have in the Oasis there, of a few different kinds all spliced together into one.
Yeah, because they got to cross pollinate to produce fruit.
Yeah. In the last place I lived, we had a single pear tree in the backyard.
Yeah, it won't produce
It
fruit.
produced interesting fruit.
Yeah. Yeah, it was because an occasional bee showed up carrying pollen from some distant fruit tree.
I don't think there was a single normal pear on that tree. They were all weird, and they never ripened properly.
Yeah, well, it also part of the problem would be it was probably suffering from funguses and such. All right, with all that being said, it's time for a little music to carry us to showtime. Let's go.
Don't claim to know your story, don't even have my own. In the search for glory, gone with them sacred rules of old. They went missing down Highway 49. Devil's at the crossroads, sitting doing time. Preacher man discovered, passed down from saint to sage, like a kind-hearted lover who's been lost on this stage. Went missing down Highway 49. Devil's at the crossroads, sitting doing time. Come on now. Not saying they are the answer, not saying they're right or wrong. I ain't no Texan dancer, Lord knows where I belong. Went missing down Highway 49. crossroads, sitting doing time. Junkie and the jigger just seen who done the crime. Captain pulled the trigger, guess who's doing time? They went missing down Highway 49. Devil's at the crossroads. Is he yours or is he mine?
It's definitely mine.
Story don't even have my own. In our search for glory, gone with them sacred rules of old. We're missing down Highway 49. Devil's at the crossroads, sitting doing time. Devil's at a crossroads, Joker's doing fine. Just been doing time.
Alrighty, there we have it. It is time. Let's get the show on the road.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for WordPress plugins A to Z, not Z.
Dealing out top WordPress plugin reviews. It's episode 550, and we have plugins for embedding Google, sticky contents, customizing Gravity, sliding simply, wall of news, failing logins, and ClassicPress options, all coming up on WordPress plugins from A to Z. WordPress. It's the most popular content management and website solution on the internet. And with over 80,000 plugins to choose from, how do you separate the junk from the gems? Join us for a weekly, unrehearsed conversation about the latest and greatest in WordPress plugins. This is WordPress plugins from A to Z. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be hiding out there on the globe today. Coming to you direct from the Oasis, deep in the heart of the Cowichan Valley. I'm John Overall. And with me is
And
the
I'm Amber
ever-lovely-
Overall.
Yes, there you go. I didn't get the full cue in there. I slipped on the cue. Oh, well, that's what happens.
It's all right. I got your back.
Yeah, the cue jumps around on me. All right. We have this wonderful value for value show, folks. If you're getting any value out of it, please give some value back. We'll talk about that a little further into the show. A couple of quick items also here. Don't forget, we do have the Q&A segment with Amber at the end of the show that you want to stick around for. And if you really want to hear the whole bit, sometimes we actually get to talking a little bit beyond that, but it's only available in the YouTube version. You could just jump right towards the end of the show if you've already listened to the show on the podcast. At any rate, all of that, it is just time for me to...
Thank you for sharing, John. Now get down from that soapbox.
This is number 11 of 52 episodes for 2022. And as the world keeps spinning, right now is a fantastic time to make sure that those you love hear you say it, and that you make sure to spend some really good quality time with everyone you love, friends, family, everyone. And remember, as interesting as the news and social media is right now, be sure to turn it off for at least a few hours at a time. The longer you can go without it, the better for your mental health, in my opinion. And try to appreciate the things that are here and now, like the fact that we're moving into spring, things are getting warmer, there's some plants that are starting to peek through the ground. It's really quite beautiful. So if you can get your family and friends, get your kids, head out for a walk, spend some time in the green growing areas. Enjoy the coming spring rebirth of things green and growing. Even if all that pollen looks and feels like little Death Stars when you have hay fever, you can just ignore that bit. Rinse and repeat as often as needed.
Absolutely. Let's just jump into the news.
Please, can everybody be quiet? Please be quiet. Shut up! Thank you. And now the WordPress news with John Overall.
Well, with Amber.
Okay, so the first thing I have for you is the WordPress vulnerability report. Sorry, just a sec. There we go. WordPress vulnerability report for March 2nd, 2022. It seems to be a slightly different setup than usual this week. Like, they have the regular list of plugins that are good, that have been patched or what have you. And then right at the bottom of there, they have this really plain looking list. And it has, unless of course it changed since I checked it before. Hang on, go up.
Yeah, I'm looking. I scrolled straight to the bottom of the page and there's nothing.
Yeah,
nothing seems
that's
to be different.
interesting. Okay, so I guess what they did here is they put everything that was fixed right at the top, and then they went to a normal thing. It wasn't like this when I checked it this morning. It was different.
Well,
It's okay though. Either way, they had a list. They have a list of no fixed known plugins. There's a lot of no known fixed plugins this week. You'll want to go down the list and check it out. Also, before you decide to just delete it, make sure you double check to see if there is an update, because one of the plugins that was listed in the no known fix list. Oh, there it is. This is the list I was thinking about.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of the plugins that's in that list is Interactive Geomaps, and I know that for me, I found an upgrade this morning when I logged in, and it does fix the issue. I think that iThemes just hasn't gotten that information yet. So just to name a few of what I think are popular plugins are add-ons for Elementor, Simple Sitemap, Royal Elementor add-ons, Form Vibes, Restrict User Access, Advanced Page Visit Counter, and quite a few others. So do go through, check them out.
So it's a pretty lengthy list right now.
It is a very lengthy list. That's probably why they put this list in right here, is because it was easy for people to check rather than those big boxes with blurbs.
Yep. Yep, that's a pretty big list.
Yeah. So take some time, check them out, compare the list of no known fix to your plugin list, and see if you do actually have an update, just to double check. If there is an update, and then you don't need to worry, because this information is a bit old. So
Yep.
just a heads up for everyone.
Yep. Go check it out.
Next up is the Kiev Independent is seeking donations to continue critical Ukrainian news coverage. So PatchStack is offering them WordPress security services for free, and they are putting up a site called UA Cyberhelp, where CEO Oliver Slid and 4 others are offering their cybersecurity services on volunteer basis. They are working towards assisting organizations like the Kiev Independent and others affected by the war in Ukraine. If you are interested in helping, you can reach out and offer your volunteer services, or you can donate to the cause. So this is something that I found kind of interesting. It's a good work. It's being pushed out by WordPress, and I think PatchDeck is part of WordPress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they seem like they're doing a pretty good job. And if you want to help, reach out. They'll be happy to accept your help, I'm sure.
Cool.
The next one makes me laugh. WordPress is ditching P and tinkle jokes in favor of more inclusive language and clear code.
It's clear they no longer have a sense of humor in the coder area.
I had no idea that 43% of the web has PP jokes in its code. That's awesome.
There's if you start reading code, you'll find all kinds of interesting stuff in the code. Even the code, when I used to write it, I would leave occasional bits and pieces in there just for my own personal entertainment.
Yeah, I've noticed some pretty entertaining stuff. My favorite so far is quick like a ninja or something.
Yep.
I don't know, it was sneaky like a ninja, and then the whole bit of code was ninja-oriented, it seemed.
Yep.
It was awesome.
Yeah, that's the thing is you get bored, and so you suddenly get a creative piece, and you just got to stick it in the code, and chances are virtually nobody's going to read it.
Yeah. Well, I guess because of the uptick in coders and people learning code, that's a large part of the reason why they are ditching the PP jokes.
No, it's because they're becoming politically correct, and that's just a simple thing. They're politically correctifying everything. So.
I think having clear code will also help all the beginners who are entering in as well, though.
Yeah, there is the thing about the clearer code.
Yeah.
And because they did use them as variables, which they shouldn't have used them as variables, because that's just a wrong variable. I can get behind that. They should have just been comments in the code versus variables.
Yeah, so a couple of the examples that they give makes sense that they're going to be changing it up for a more clear code. Like last P turns into last part. So kind of makes sense for the beginners who are entering into the business. And it does seem like there's a lot of newbies out there who are entering in and learning everything. So either way, bye-bye PP. Next up is the WordPress Web Fonts API has arrived. So for those of you who've been sitting on the edge of your seat and waiting with bated breath, it is finally here. The WordPress Web Fonts API. It has been merged into the Gutenberg plugin, and you can currently test it in the dev version or the nightly download version.
Okay. But whose fonts are they? They WordPress fonts?
They seem to be WordPress fonts
Yeah.
mixed in with the Gutenberg plugin.
Yeah, well,
So-
what I'm getting at is, there's a few places that internet fonts are drawn from. The largest chunk of them is drawn from Google. So I'm just curious to where the fonts are actually drawn from, whose repository. Because, of course, that for those that have to deal with the European GDP, whatever it is, drawing Google fonts has gotten some companies in trouble, violating the privacy laws because of how Google offers up its fonts. Yeah, so it's like it's just a curiosity. You might want to, if you're going to get into that, you want to dig into exactly where the fonts are drawn from, what their use and their privacy is around it. So,
All right. Next one I have here is Stratix acquires WP2 static plugin, and they plan to relaunch it on WordPress.org. So for those of you who use WP2 static, it may possibly be changing up a bit from where it was.
oh yeah, quite possibly.
Since Stratix has acquired it, but I don't know if it will, because they're saying they're not going to change it. They're going to keep it as is, but they always say that, and I haven't seen. I've seen a couple that have been kept the same, but I haven't seen many. So.
Well, the thing is if you buy these companies, they buy up these smaller plugins or these plugins with it, and then what happens is they have to recoup their money they used to buy it. So then they have to find a business plan that will get them their money back, and so they have to change things. And this is the problem. We currently seem to be in a era right now of lots and lots of plugins and other things being acquired by larger companies. We're in consolidation mode, where of course WordPress started out, everything was scattered. There are lots of individuals or small groups, but they've been over the years combining together. And while on one hand it's good, on another hand it's not so good. You end up with fewer and fewer choices as time goes on, and fewer companies you can deal with, which is a sad thing. It's good and sad. It's good and sad at the same time. I hate to see it, but it's just the way industry grows up.
Yep.
So. Okay.
Next up is WP Experts acquires Post SMTP plugin. So I wanted to bring this to people's attention because it's another acquisition you'll want to keep an eye on if this is a plugin that you use.
Yep. You'll want to pay attention to it to see how they decide to fix it, change it, do whatever it is.
I mean, this one has changed a few times. It seems like it's changed hands a few times in its life growing up so far.
It didn't exactly change hands. The developer of it currently, he forked it from another popular plugin where the developer, it had developed a massive security flaw, and WordPress forcefully removed it from the repository because the developer didn't want. This guy forked it, renamed it, fixed the security flaws, and then grew it up into a big plugin.
Ah, okay.
So, and of course that got so big, he probably ran out of time or decided he wanted to do something else in his life, and he got offered a reasonable price from WP Experts and sold it. And so WP Experts may or may not keep it as a premium, but I guess the guy who was developing it also had several premium add-ons that were in development to use with the plugin. So we'll see what happens with it. And WP Expert got those too.
By the way, Hemdian made a note. It's GDRP is what you're trying to remember
That's what it was, the GRP. I had an acronym that was much better than what the acronym is for it, but I can't remember. I just remember I spent months working on websites because of that. Not that I complained about the money. It was just such a ludicrous thing to me.
A little bit. The next one I have is WooCommerce 6.3 to introduce new product filtering by attributes.
Yep.
I really like this idea. I think it could be very useful. The release isn't going to be out until March 8th, 2022, but if you're interested in learning more about this, you can check out the article, and I think they have they have some testing that you can probably check out as well.
That's interesting. That'll be a nice addition to WooCommerce. Looks like it's due out next week. All right.
And then the last one for WordPress today is a quick note to remind everyone about the WordFest that's WordFest Live on March 4th, 2022. Looks like they have a lot of cool things that are going to be available to check out. Lots of cool little, and I forgot the word, but not lessons, but workshops and things where you can learn about WordPress and other things connected.
Yep.
And then in the extra news today, we've got things like how to build high-tech tools for low-tech industries. Your next laptop may have incredible battery life thanks to bizarre addition of sulfur. Attacks abusing programming APIs has grown over 600% in 2021. That's one to check out. There's a few about the new bots and new malware that's coming out. So give all those a check, and yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Worth checking out.
Alrighty, well, let's roll on and let's thank some people that support this show. Oops, wrong one.
It's time to donate to WP Plugins A to Z.
As we mentioned right off the top of the show, this is a value for value show, and we like to recognize those that support the show with some value, either time, treasure, or talent. A lot of the value we get back on the show lately has been just a lot of talent and time from people. So thank you very much to all those that do that. And we also like to acknowledge, our artists, because we are one of the few podcasts out there that change our art each and every week. And the art we use is provided by our artists, our great artists. And this week's art comes from Greg's Graphics. And I really like this one because it's just crisp, clean. Black cards, all aces. So I really like it. It's just it kind of stands out to me. I liked it. Very nice piece.
I like this a lot too. It is really cool looking. Kind of makes me think of our little plug-in logo there, like he's a dealer.
Yeah, it's kind of an elegant, adds a bit of elegance to our show title and to our artwork. And those watching on YouTube get a preview of the artwork before it goes live with the show later in the day. And hopefully one day we'll have a whole bunch of artists competing for the slot of having the art, and that would be great. We'd really appreciate that, and we'll be able to put out even better art as time goes on. So thank you very much to all the artists out there, and thank you to Greg's Graphics, who supplied the art this week. All right, so we've also got some other things here. We like to acknowledge those that kick in some time to supporting this show. Those such as Jess, who helped organize our art gallery, getting all the past art that wasn't in the gallery. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the artist name attached to it just because of the limitations of the plugin we used for it. But all new artwork always has the artist name because they got to create an account and to submit the artwork. And so thank you for that. There's also other little miscellaneous things that the website always needs if someone ever wants to donate some time helping us to organize up the website, prepare our contests or other miscellaneous things that get done that we don't always have time to accomplish. We do have a set spot here for anyone who wants to become an executive producer for the show. And to be an executive producer, you get a full-blown executive producer credit you can use anywhere credits are recognized. And it's $50 donation minimum, and then you can get a note read out on the show, and hey, jump on board, become a executive producer of the WP Plugins A to Z show. And you can say, yep, I supported those guys, those little small people who do so much for the WordPress community, showcasing plugins that are rarely heard about. One of the big things we do here is we bring forth a lot of brand new plugins and plugins that not everyone has heard about. Sometimes they become very famous plugins, but most of the time they just become a decently used user base on them.
Yeah, we try to stand up for the little guys.
Yep. All right. And we do have a few donors out there that kick us $5-10 here and there, and those ones always remain anonymous. Everything under $50 remains anonymous. And so thank you very much for the small amounts and donations. You know, they never put money in our pocket, but it is an acknowledgement that you appreciate the show and support the show in some way, form, or fashion. All right. Well, with all of that being said, I think it's time to dive into the meat and potatoes of the show, into the depths of plugin depravity, what everyone shows up here for. All right, we still have the ClassicPress options area open for anyone who uses ClassicPress to donate or to give us some information, donate some time if you're using ClassicPress so we can showcase what's happening in the ClassicPress world. I just don't have time to go there these days and see what's up because I'm not building in ClassicPress currently. But we do have WordPress plugins. And the first WordPress plugin I have for you out the gate today is called Embed Google Drive. And this is a simple plugin to use, and it allows you to embed a link and preview Google Drive documents simply by pasting the shared document link into the editor. No configuration needed for this plugin. It's pretty decent, straightforward. If you use Google Drive for your documents and you share documents through Google Drive on a regular basis, you know all about how to go get the shared link that people can use. And then you can embed it on your site and have that document right there on your site. I can see a few uses for this in that, for instance, if you use Google Docs, Excel type spreadsheets, and you've got a spreadsheet, maybe you track hockey game stats or something on a hockey website. You want to share that and you're always updating that file in Google Drive. Well, if you have this one shared link, that document's always going to be up to date. You won't have to constantly re-upload the document for your visitors to check it out. So there's lots of ways it can be a very handy tool. At any rate,
That does sound really handy.
I thought it would be very useful for those that use Google Drive, and a lot of people do. I personally don't, but it's because I use other sharing. I got into Dropbox before Google Drive was a thing, so I've just sort of hooked into that environment. At any rate, go check this one out. It's Embed Google Drive, and I give it a 4-dragon rating.
That sounds really useful. I can think of a few different sites we've worked on that would probably make good use of that.
Yep.
First one I have is Simple WP Slider. I was kind of snagged on this one because the creator wrote down, I checked everywhere for a simple slider. I just couldn't find one, so I built one. And it really is a very simple slider. Really cool, totally free, up for grabs, and it's very easy to use. Once you download it, you go to Settings, click on Simple WP Slider, and upload as many pictures as you want. You can move them easily or even swap them around with this handy-dandy little arrow at the right-hand side.
Nice.
You hit Save Changes and add a short code to whatever page you want. It works really well. All the slides are the same size. They have a great transition time. They have little arrows there for you so the people viewing it can click to check the next one. And it's an endless cycle, so it's not click through, reach the end, and then have to refresh the page like I found on some places.
Yep.
It just keeps going.
Nice.
One complaint. There was no mention about what shortcode to use either in the description or the settings page. The shortcode is Simple WP Slider, but I had to navigate over to the GitHub page that he gives a link to in order to find that out. I personally think it would have been great if he had put it like what he shows you there in that one picture is the settings. So if he just puts down in the settings right there what shortcode to use, that'd be very useful. I'd really appreciate that.
It would be. The other question is does it do it multiple sliders or just one?
Just one.
Okay.
It's just one very simple slider, very easy to use.
Oh, okay.
Due to the lack of code, though, I am bringing the simple WP slider down 1 dragon. So I rate him at 4 dragons.
Cool. Okay, the next one I have for you, and this is for those of you that write, heavy duty documentation or big posts, and you use a lot of H1 to H6 tags throughout your site, throughout the page and post that you created. This is a table of contents that is sticky. And this sticky table of contents displays the headings on a per post or per page basis. So in other words, when someone loads up a single page or a post, and you've got all these headings down there for different components of whatever you've written out, this creates a table that can be stuffed into a sidebar at the top of the page, however you want to do it. But it's a full table of contents for the entire post, which means makes it easy for people to navigate through the post if they're looking for something specific in that post, and you don't have to go through and build out that map and menu on it. Very cool tool.
Very nice.
Initially I thought it was something for building a table of contents for the site, but no, it turned out it was just for the individual page, and its value is only there if you're remembering to use all the proper heading tags throughout when you do everything, and not everybody does that. So at any rate, seemed like a great tool for people who create more advanced content. Go check this one out. It's called the Sticky Table of Contents, Advanced Table of Contents, and I give it a 4 dragon rating.
That is really cool. I can see a lot of use for that.
Mm-hmm.
Next one I have is Newswall. This is a really cool idea. It's a plugin where you can add your own news into the settings of it and simply use a shortcode to add the news into your page. Every time you add new news to the settings area, it will show up wherever you've added the shortcode in the past. So if you say you're someone who's always checking the news and you keep wanting to add in like 5 new things you find a day, just add it into the settings and it will automatically load up to every page that you have that shortcode on. Very cool. I really like it. It's a very simple it's very simple the way it shows up. It's just a header and a short blurb of the news.
Mm-hmm.
There's just one thing. For some reason, in the settings area where you add text into the add text box, the text is white. So you can't actually see anything you've written down.
That's bizarre.
There also doesn't seem to be any way to change that. So Newswall is a fantastic idea. I really like it. But they lose 1 dragon for the white text.
Yeah, well, that's due to they did something in the CSS, and they're probably someone who does their development in a dark theme, so the text needed to be white to see it, and they didn't think about the CSS when they were developing. And of course, because each plugin has its own CSS for displaying its stuff, and of course the theme's not overriding it. So
yeah, that would be I rate this at 4 dragons.
Yeah, well. All right, the last one I have for you, and this one's kind of brand new, but I thought it might be useful for those that use Gravity Forms and add custom code to their Gravity Forms. When they're custom coding out different things. I haven't done custom coding in Gravity Forms for quite some time, but I do recall, what a pain it was sometimes. If you did some changes, you'd lose track of where that custom code was written, what place you put it in. Well, this allows you to create a folder in Gravity Forms it creates a directory specifically for storing custom code. It creates one called Gravity Hopper Code, and that's where you stick your global code file, and it's all run with your Gravity Forms. So I thought it was a cool little tool for those that work in those areas, and something that people might want to be aware of. It is a relatively new plugin and something to check out if you're doing additional coding adding to your Gravity Forms. Go check it out. It's the custom code keeper for Gravity Forms, and I give it a 4 dragon rating.
That is so useful. I've done some custom coding on Gravity Forms, and if I'd had this, it would have made life a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
Last one I've got for today is Limit Failed Logins. This is a pretty awesome little plugin. They have a beautiful dashboard too. I was really impressed when I saw it. Once activated, you will find the dashboard under the left-hand column there. And they give you a landing page that shows the amount of failed login attempts, offers you the tools to check out logs, and you can block or whitelist usernames or IPs right from that first part, so you don't have to go through all the options to do those things.
Nice.
Then they also have different tabs for settings, logs, and debug tab, which I thought that was kind of cool, having a debug one.
Yeah, that is kind of cool and useful.
Under the settings, you can set the number of allowed retries before lockout, how long they will be locked out each time around, and then they have the option to put how long it'll take before their reset happens. So, like if they fail to log in 3 or 4 times, they get you can set for 24 hours until they get to try again.
Yep.
Very useful plugin. It helps to cut down on brute force attacks and allows you to whitelist those lovely forgetful people who forget what their password is and log in from time to time.
Yep.
I rate this at 5 dragons.
Cool. Anything to help add up your security. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have listener questions or feedback, and we're waiting for it, folks. Kick it back to us. Listener feedback and questions. We are ready for it. All right, we do have from our last contest where we were giving away the 1-year license for the events calendar. And our winner of the events calendar single pro domain license is Jason Lee. So congratulations, Jason. Send that email back to me. I'll get that code out to you, and you can start playing with the events calendar, and you have it for a full year before you might have to buy it again unless you're not using it. So anyway, congratulations, Jason. We greatly appreciate all those who entered the contest, and sooner or later we'll come up with some sort of consultory reward for people. Maybe we'll start asking for discount coupons that we can give away in a contest for people, and we'll kick out a discount coupon for people. I think that's what
That'd be cool.
That's what we got to start remembering to do when we're soliciting the licenses. Say, hey, would you mind kicking us out a few discount coupon codes too for people that enter the contest but don't win? All
That'd
right.
be cool.
We do have another contest coming. It will start next week. And what we're going to be doing is we are going to be giving away a lifetime single domain license for interactive geomaps. A very fantastic mapping plugin for creating generic type maps of all kinds of purposes to highlight stuff and showcase things. You want to hear more about it? Go check out the interview I did with, I think it was Carlos was his name. And go check out the interview I did with him. We got really into the plugin and a few other great things in the interview. So go check that out. But starting next week, and we'll be running that contest for another 4 weeks, all the way through the entire month of March into April. All right. And just look for the contest. It'll get announced as soon as we have it up and ready. But the official announcement day will be next week. All right, cover up a few things here before we get into the Q&A segment. Plugins I covered this show was Embed Google Drive, which I gave a 4 to. The Sticky TOC Advanced Table of Contents, which I gave a 4 to. And the Custom Code Keeper for Gravity Forms, which I gave a 4 to.
And I covered Simple WP Slider, which I rated at 4. Newswall, which I rated at 4. And Limit Failed Logins, which I rated at 5.
Cool. All right, a couple other quick reminders. There's a meetup that will be coming along in June, and as soon as I have it finalized, I will make the notes here on it. If you're a developer, know a developer, or would just like to talk turkey about WordPress, feel free to reach out to me for an interview at wpplugins.com/interview, and we can get you on an interview show. If you have plugin suggestions or plugins you'd like to have reviewed, hey, submit them to us at wpplugins.com, submit plugin review. All right, this is it. This is where we head off into...
It's question and answer time.
What, Amber?
Before I get started on the questions, if anyone out there has any questions they'd like to have asked on the show, please feel free to send them in to me at amber@wppro.ca, and I will get them in here, and we'll see if we can stump my dad.
Absolutely.
first question is, do servers make a difference in how sites run? For example, will a very crowded server run your site slower than a rather empty server?
Yes. That's the straightforward answer. And yes, servers make a difference. What kind of server, what chips it has, how much memory it has, what its capabilities. The other thing that makes a difference is how it's connected to the internet. But a very crowded server, yes, that causes all kinds of slower stuff, because you got to remember, every website on there is begging the server for resources. If you've got 5,000 websites and suddenly 5,000 people show up at once asking for a page from each website, that slows down the delivery time of it, because then the server has to process that request, send that request to the server. The server then has to produce the pages and then deliver them back on the internet. So the more people are on one server, the slower it will actually run. So yeah, servers make a big difference. It's like the computer you choose for gaming, or the computer you choose for development or video editing. With today's stuff here, it's really hard to work on a early 2000 computer and do video editing or gaming. You can't. Most older computers won't run a modern game because the resources aren't there. So yeah, server makes all the difference in the world, and the population of the server makes a big difference.
All right. Are there different kinds of servers for different kinds of sites? For example, if you need a fully high-tech site that functions almost as fast as your mind, is there a particular kind of server for that, or does it depend on how much space you have available in your allotment of the server space?
Okay, let's see if I can tease this one apart a little bit, because this is a little complex question. First part, are there different kinds of servers for different kinds of sites or processes? Yes, there are. There's
Okay.
if you happen to be running a server and you've got data on it, the server will be dedicated to just the data, and then you have a server that's dedicated to the web page itself. A lot of servers are multi-use, such as my servers are multi-use. The data's on the same server as the websites are, but I don't have ultra high-end clients that get tens of thousands of visitors. Well, some of them get tens of thousands of visitors a day, but let's take it up to millions of visitors a day, or somebody such as Amazon or whatever. You have to you specialize your data out depending on what it's doing. If you're looking for something at a high-tech functioning site, I would say like video streaming. Something that needs to function as fast as your mind. If you can go back to, when did YouTube hit the thing? Somewhere around 2010, I think, YouTube. Initially,
I honestly don't remember.
well, think of it like, when you first started using BitChute or Odyssey, it had a lot of buffering problems.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have fast enough servers to deliver the amount of video people were asking for.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And so what they had to do is they had to add more servers and then spread that data out over more machines so that it would be able to deliver it as fast as the mind wanted it. And that's basically what you're looking at here. And it's not so much how much space you have, it's how much processing ability and how much bandwidth is available to the server in the data center.
Okay.
Because the bandwidth and the processing ability are a lot dependent upon the delivery of it. You could have a server with teraquads of storage space, but if it doesn't have a computer chip, the chips and other things available for processing that data fast enough, and it doesn't have enough connection to the internet to deliver that processed data fast enough, it'll still be slow. So
Okay.
it's a combination of everything is what it comes down to. It's a combination of everything to make it work well. And of course, the bigger you grow, the more you do, the more space you need, the more bandwidth you need, the more processing power you need. And nowadays what they do is they just add another server and they spread the data across the servers, which can be done.
Okay.
It is done.
That kind of leads into my last question here, which is, are there servers that designate themselves for one thing, like one server for one government, only that government, no other government is allowed? Or is that entirely up to the server? I think server custodians, I guess would be a good name for the people who are in charge of it.
The server managers, the dude's named Ben, the
Yeah.
tech support. We got all kinds of names for him. Dude named Ben's my favorite.
I like that one.
Okay, well, that's a great question. And what we'll do is we'll come back to that question after we close out the show. Let my girl take us on out of here.
Reminders for the show. All show notes can be found at wppluginsa2z.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the newsletter for more useful information delivered directly to your inbox. WP Plugins A to Z is a show that offers honest and unbiased reviews of plugins created by developers because you support the show. Help keep the show honest and unbiased by going to wppluginsa2z.com/donate and set the donation level that fits your budget. Help us make the show better for you by subscribing and reviewing the show at Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and in the iTunes Store. You can also leave us a review on our Facebook page using wppluginsa2z.com/Facebook. You can also watch the show live on YouTube, check out the screencasts and training videos, and remember to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications of all new videos. Follow the show on Twitter at WPPluginsA2Z. John can also be reached at his website, johnoverall.com, or email him directly, john@wppro.ca. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the show. This show is copyright by johnoverall.com. So until next time, have yourselves a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be out there on the globe today.
Alrighty. So let's see what we're looking at here. All right. Are there servers that designate themselves for one thing, like for one server for government, only one government, other governments allowed? Well, yeah, government's a nice simple way to put it, but yes, there's dedicated servers for different purposes and people. You know, I have a client that we have a dedicated server just for that client. And that was simply because we wanted max amount of speed, max amount of slowdown, you know, very little problems. The only thing that's being processed on that server are their websites, nothing else. You know,
I think I was thinking along the lines of like, what would go into making a server for that? Like, I should have written that down, but that's more what I was thinking when I wrote the question is like the server that's designated for one thing, what is it that goes into a specially designated server?
nothing special.
Nothing?
It depends on what the server is going to be used for. You know,
Okay.
like if you wanted a database server, you could set up a server, and so the only thing that runs on it is databases, nothing else. Mail servers, you can set up a server that just runs the email and does nothing else but email. You know, manages email. You can set up a server that runs your DNS. You can set up a server to do anything you want and have it only do one thing. It's a
And if
matter
it's
of
set up just for one type of website, like for instance government, because that was just an easy one to go with,
yeah.
then there's nothing particularly special that goes into it. It's just designated.
It's just designated for that specific item. There's nothing special that goes into the server unless the server needs specialized software in it. You know, it's
Okay.
like I remember we set up a server for your uncle. I think it was about 3 years ago. We were going to set up a gaming server so people could log in and play the games such as, you know, Fortnite and other things. And that required a lot of specialized software to run. It took months to get it up and running, and then it didn't stay running. It wasn't stable enough. It was really quite an irritant, and we finally just abandoned the project because we weren't making money on it. But
Okay.
and that's all the server was. It was a gaming server. And you can set up servers can be very specialized depending on what your specialized needs are. You know.
That was really cool. I wasn't sure if they could be specialized or anything.
Oh yeah, they are absolutely specialized. But it's a matter of, you know, because servers aren't cheap to lease an
Yeah.
entire server is not a cheap thing to do. You know,
Well, nothing good is ever cheap.
yeah, and so you have to make sure that you're getting your value back for the money you're putting out for that server, whatever that might be. All right,
Cool.
we don't really have too much else going on here today, then. And that
Nope.
wa-
Although one thing I wanted to point out
Mm-hmm.
is Hemdian wanted to correct himself. He got two letters backwards. He meant GDPR,
yes, I know.
not GDRP. But just figured
Yeah.
I'd bring that to the
Oh,
fore.
that's what I had. It was the General Data Privacy Racket is the acronym I put it at. The General Data Privacy Racket versus regulation, because it was basically a racket. You know, so it's just a whole new slew of rules and regulations that they could then fine the large companies. And that's exactly what they've done with this thing is they only fine the large companies because it's pointless to fine a small company, because you fine a small company, this massive $10,000, $100,000 fine, you just bankrupt them. They go out of business. You don't get any money. But they have
I
fined.
think the phrase is you can't squeeze blood out of a rock.
You can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. No.
A
Yeah.
turnip?
Yep, you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip, or you can't squeeze blood out of a rock. No. And that's the thing is like a lot of these regulations that they brought in, they can only really be used against big companies, people with money, with deep pockets, because anyone else, you just bankrupt them and you never get any money.
Yeah.
And then the other thing it does is all these regulations do is they drive the small person out of business, because the small person doesn't have an entire wing of their office building dedicated to just managing the regulations.
Yeah.
You know, the more regulations there are, the fewer small businesses you see. And that's true everywhere. And it's unfortunate because there's, once upon a time, there used to be tons and tons of small businesses, and now there's fewer and fewer of them as they create more and more regulations to prevent small business people from doing anything. So,
Poor little guys.
yeah, well, that's the problem. I'm one of them.
Yep.
I'm one of those little guys, so... At any rate, I think that sort of wraps it all up. And thanks, everyone, for showing up. And thanks for everyone who comes to the show and follows it at a later date. That's all we got for you. Let's play a little music to carry us on out.
These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. A quarter after midnight, and I'm watching the wall. Sometimes I feel so uptight, I just can't sleep at all. Every day doing the same old thing, we're losing time. The weekend comes, we gotta have some fun and rewind. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. I feel the rope tightening, choking off our air. We need to grab some lightning. Friday's almost here. Caught in a web, we need to cut this thread we're hanging by. Where is it said you have to be half dead to survive? These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill.
Alrighty, folks. That's all we got for you now. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Adios, mofo.